Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal is just 44, but his position as an outspoken conservative and effective governor reinforces his credentials as a true leader. I recently sat down with him inside the theater department of Iowa State University and began by asking about some of his opponents, including Donald Trump.
Look, this is a free country. And I think that it's a good thing candidates are having more and more opportunities to speak directly to the voters like they are today. I think it'll be good for some candidates. I think it's going to be good for me. It won't be as good for others. Even with Donald Trump money, nobody's going to buy this nomination. It's going to be an earned nomination. I'm glad the voters are going to get to decide. They're going to get to pick their nominee, and I think it'll be an open and robust debate. With as many Republicans running, Republican voters can go vote for somebody, not against somebody, and that's a good thing.
Is there anything that surprised you in terms of the personalities and the people involved in this? Anyone who has earned greater admiration from you, or between us, anybody who kind of rubbed you the wrong way?
Well, look, I'm biased. I'll tell you my bias. I'm biased towards governors. I think governors have run things. I think after 7 years now of a first-term senator, it's time to do something different in our country. I know my fellow governors pretty well. We've worked well with each other. We've competed against each other. Obviously, I think I'm the best qualified to be the nominee and president. Otherwise, I wouldn't run. I'm always amazed by people. If you don't think that, you shouldn't get in the race. And so, I think we've got a lot of different folks with different positions. A couple of things I think sets me apart is, one, I've got that proven track record. Secondly, we are offering specific ideas. But third, I think folks are saying we don't want to send just any Republican to the White House. If you send somebody there that's going to manage the slow decline of this great country, I'm not your guy, if that's what you want. We need somebody, and JD, you know, you've been there. A lot of these Republican leaders don't want to do term limits or balance the budget. A lot of these Republican leaders don't want to deal with marriage, or they don't want to deal with Obamacare. They were happy the court ruled against us because they look at those as distractions. That's ridiculous. The Republican Party cannot become the party of big government. We're not. But we should also not be the party of big business. And I think there's a danger and there's a temptation. Those special interests have got their hooks into not just the Democrats, but also some of these Republicans.
What I hear about the buzz around Iowa has to be encouraging to you. People say you're in position, as Mike Huckabee performed in 2008, as Rick Santorum performed in 2012, people are saying, don't be surprised if Bobby Jindal has that kind of success in Iowa in 2016. Why do you think that is?
Well, a couple of things, and thank you. We are hearing that. We are seeing growing and growing crowds. Two things. One, we've said, let's do something different. Let's embrace our own principles. You know, Jeb Bush says you got to be willing to lose the primary in order to win the general. JD, I disagree with that. I think it's time for us to embrace our own principles and say, look, we don't need a second liberal party. We don't need to be cheaper Democrats. We're going to secure the border. We're going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to invest in the military. We're going to shrink the federal government, grow the private sector. We're going to stand with Israel. We're going to stop Iran from becoming a nuclear power. And secondly, I think people are looking for a doer, not a talker. We got a lot of candidates that are making a lot of empty promises. Look, we got a talker in the White House. We got a president who needed on-the-job training, a first-term senator who had never run anything before. We're not just talking about doing these things. We've done these things. So in my state, we've cut our budget 26%, 30,000 fewer state bureaucrats. We are now the top 10 state for private sector job creation, the most pro-life state 6 years in a row. And I think people are looking at that going, here's a guy that's willing to do and say the things you're not supposed to be able to do and say. I think folks are tired of the status quo. They're tired of the establishment in both parties. They were promised if Republicans took the majority last year, things would change. On amnesty, on Obamacare, on the budget, they didn't change. I think people are looking for a fighter that will go and represent them.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned, whether in Congress or certainly now as governor and running for president? What's the biggest lesson that will reinforce Bobby Jindal in this pursuit of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
JD, one of the things that's been reinforced to me again and again and again, and I think it's one of the great differences between us and them, meaning the left, is I trust the American people. On issue after issue, what they have shown is they have got more wisdom than their so-called leaders in D.C., the elites in D.C. On issue after issue, the left thinks we're just not smart enough to pick the schools for our kids. They think we're not smart enough to know what kind of insurance to buy, health insurance to buy. They think we're not smart enough, if you live in New York, to know not to drink big gulps every day for breakfast. They think we're not smart enough to have guns and Second Amendment rights. They think we're not smart enough to have religious liberty rights. They don't think we're smart enough to know how to spend our own money. They don't think we're smart enough to know what kind of foods our children should be eating at their school lunches or at home in their snacks. You know, the arrogance of the left, Hillary Clinton and President Obama, is they really do think they know better than us. They are, look, Bernie Sanders at least is honest enough to call it socialism. They're socialists. They just won't call it socialism. The thing that I'm just so comforted by is everywhere I go, whether it's here in Iowa, whether it's at home in Louisiana, New Hampshire, your state of Arizona, Florida, South Carolina, all over this country, young people, old people, everybody, people that are Democrats that voted for this president come up to me and say, you know, I can live my own life. I don't need the government telling me how to live my life. And you see it in the fight over Common Core or Obamacare or taxes or school lunches or our Second Amendment or religious liberty. And it is great to see everyday Americans rise up and say enough's enough. Our founding fathers knew the genius of this country was a limited government that secured but didn't create our God-given rights. The left has forgotten that. The American people, I think, are going to seize their freedoms back in 2016.
And we'll have more of that exclusive interview with Bobby Jindal throughout this week. And a programming note, tune in to see our Newsmax Prime special, A Conversation with Governor Scott Walker, premiering Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on Newsmax TV.